Well, good morning. It's the 18th of May, Friday. Back in the shed. As I mentioned on my last clip, I've gotten the sill on the driver's side pretty much done. Still have to put in the finishing piece at the front here and the transition on the A-post. But I think I'm going to leave those for the moment, and I'm going to move over to the passenger side. A few things I wanted to look at here before I go too much further and start cutting anything. So I've gotten the wire wheel out, and before I got too far, I thought I'd give you a quick shot of what I'm seeing here. So here at the front, this looks quite cheesy, though the metal, like beyond this point here, so around here, is actually pretty solid. So I may do a bit of surgical removal here, maybe come around like this, take this out of the replacement floor pan, and then of course all of this stuff along here, along the transition into the sill, is all going to have to be replaced. But this stuff back here, the part that would be under the seat, is actually seeming to be pretty solid. Now I say that, but I have yet to get the brush to this part, but this little bit here that I've already started looked very much like that a couple of minutes ago, and get the rust off, and it's actually pretty solid. So I'm going to do some more cleaning before I make any final decisions, and I'll bring you back when I've got an update. Okay, so I've done a bit of wire wheel cleanup. As I thought, this section under the seat is actually really solid, and even on the inside, I don't know how good the light is there, it's not terribly good. Even there, it's just surface rust. So the real Swiss cheese doesn't start until up there, after the stiffener piece. So I think I have a plan, which is as follows. Don't know how well you can see it because I can't find my black magic marker, the black Sharpie, but I've drawn a line on here, my red Sharpie, and it's going to come from the front here up, just close to where the curve starts to transition. I would have liked to be able to come across like this on a bit of an angle, but there's this patch here, so and this one, so I'm just going to come straight across there, down a little bit of an angle. That's going to go underneath that cross piece, that transverse stiffener, and then I'm going to come along here, along the edge, a couple of inches out from the sill, till I get to the very back. And then the only other part where there's a little bit of perforation is on this pressing part here, which I can either fabricate or cut out of the pan that I have. So anyway, that's the plan for now. I figure fallback is that I can just cut the whole thing out and replace it like I did on the driver's side. So I'll be back when there's a hole to show you. Alright, Chef Tush, if you're watching, I noticed you got yourself some new gloves the other day. If you want some that are broken in, here, I can let you have this one. I don't know what it is, but for some reason, it's just the right hand. Even though I'm left-handed, the left hand glove is in fine shape. Just the right hand. So, if you're right-handed, here it is. Okay, well, I was just pleasantly surprised to realize it's only about 2:30, so I still have lots of time left today. So here is the hole that I've cut out in the passenger side floor pan. A couple of things. It looks kind of messy right now, I know, because there's all of this old sill stuff that still has to be worked on. But I've gotten down to good metal pretty much everywhere that I've cut. There's going to be some fussing here to get this cleaned up, but that's pretty solid under there, so I'll just have to clean that up a bit. Over here on the transverse stiffening element, some of this flange has a little bit of rod in it. I'm not sure if that can be seen very well. Yeah, you can kind of see some of the light coming through there. So I'm going to have to rebuild that flange, but that shouldn't be too difficult. Just this section down here. And on the other side here, as I came across, that didn't fare very well as I tried to drill out that spot weld. And then the rest of the way down the floor pan, all the way to the back. You can see there. So that all came out fairly well. And again, this is all good solid metal. I checked on the other side. I took the wire brush to the inside, and it's still solid. I mean, surface rust, yes, and that'll have to be cleaned up. But I'm thinking I'll probably send this for media blasting in any case. So that stuff should get cleaned up at the media blast stage. And so now, just going to do a little bit more cleanup, start making some patches for these flanges, and then start thinking about cutting the floor pan. Sitting over there waiting. Oh my, where does the afternoon go? It's about 5 o'clock now, a little after 5. So I have done a little bit of work on flanges here on the cross piece, and I've just clamped the floor pan in place approximately where it's going to be, and then I've traced out the cuts that I propose to make on the floor pan, the replacement pan. So I'll have to make sure that I cut all of those a little bit fat so that I have room to trim and finesse it a bit once I do get to that point. But I think I'm going to cut it short there this afternoon. It's time to think about dinner, and since it's Friday, I think it's going to be fish and chips. Alright, I hope everybody has a good weekend, and we'll see you soon. Okay, so today is Sunday the 20th of May. Just back out in the shed, and as I mentioned in the last little clip, I was going to be cutting the floor pan that I had to match the cutout that I'd made in the passenger side door. I had intended in this clip to show you both sides of that cut, but right now I'm plugged into the charger because the battery on the camera ran out. So I'm only as far as I can get with my USB cable, which is only about 3 feet. Anyway, it's just a quick shot to show you the initial trim that I did on the floor pan. So I took some off of around here, came around all the way down. I've got this strip. There's pretty good match along here. Pretty good match along here. So now I'm going to rotate the car, check the way everything looks on the scribe lines, redo the scribes if necessary, and then do a final trim and decide whether I'm going to take the trim off of the patch or whether I'm going to take it off of the original. There's some things here I don't think I can get close enough to show you. Some of the pressings in the patch don't quite match up with the pressings on the original floor, so I'm going to have to do a little bit of fudging around those. And as I mentioned, there's a little bit of perforation in here, so I'm going to have to, I'll probably go back to the patch panel and cut out this curved pressing. I believe this is a channel where the wiring harness runs up into here so that I can go into the back of the car. Actually, because this is the passenger side, I'm not sure that this is actually used. I think that's all done on the driver's side. Anyway, I'll come back, and hopefully when I'm back, the battery will be charged a bit. All right, here's an action shot. Okay, time for another test pit. Alright, so this little bit of a cut is a little tricky because I can't scribe it from the inside because the stiffener piece, the cross piece, is blocking it. Because this patch I cut out transitions right in the middle of that. So I've tried to do some line transfers, but rather than cut all of this, I'm going to drill a couple of pilot holes strategically here just to make sure that I'm in roughly the right area before I actually start cutting things. Okay, that was pretty successful. Let's see, unplug it here for a moment, see if I can get it. Yeah, there's just enough battery. So I did a couple of little pilot holes, one here and one here at the transitions. And look, you can see where those came through. So again, I'm cutting everything a little on the fat side, and I can approach the correct fit with the floppy wheel. So rather than cut too much. Okay, so I have pretty much gotten the fit where I want it to be. Well, not where I want it to be, but where it is. And I'm going to start tacking this in place now. So, here goes nothing. I said that last time, I think. Okay, so it's a little bit after 4, and this is where I am so far today. I got the floor tacked in. There's a few spots where it's not very pretty yet. A little bit of fussing, and this was a little bit fat, so I'm going to have to adjust that. And then there's a few spots, I think I mentioned it earlier, that these pressings didn't match with the pressings on the patch piece. So I've got it tacked on the two sides. So I'll come back with the hammer and dolly and bring those a little bit closer together and then do the final welding on that. But anyway, that's where I am today. So next time I'm out here, hopefully tomorrow. Well, maybe not tomorrow. Tomorrow is holiday here in Canada, Victoria Day. God save the Queen. Okay, so this is the floor pan on the passenger side. Just as a reminder, I cut out a piece here to patch the defective parts on the original, so the stuff that was all perforated. Cut it back to good metal. I tacked it in place after doing the fitting, and I believe I also mentioned that there's a few spots where the pressings don't match up quite right. So like along here, this is near the transmission tunnel area, and then back along here further, there's along the edge of the sill area, there's some spots where they don't match up very well. So I have left those unwelded for the moment, and I'll get in there with hammer and dolly and try and form those a little bit better so that they match up. Not necessarily that I'm going to be able to bring this metal in the patch up to where the original pressing is, but I can at least make them meet halfway. I'm also a little bit more pleased with some of my welds, So along here, for example, where I've got really good contact between the two pieces of metal, I've been able to get some nice continuous welds after doing the tacking. Some of the rest of it still is, but those are areas where there was slight gaps, so I had to bridge it with some big tacks, a whole series of those. Anyway, bit of grinding. So I think what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to rotate this up a little bit more and have a look at the sill, see if I'm ready to start pulling out some of the sill pieces like I did on the driver's side.